place, rock the 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 place.
Hello, welcome to this festive edition of We Talk Audio. Joining me today is a man that needs no introduction, Erik Hockman, MSG Ventures and Sphere Entertainment Senior Fellow.
Yes.
This is a special episode that is released in a special time of the year, and hopefully you can actually see that by our little mover, little tree here. So let's dig right into it, Erik.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you ever seen any of the other installments, and I am not blaming you if you haven't. Okay. So we usually kick things off by asking our guests to introduce themselves, but this time I think we should run things a little bit differently.
Okay.
So rather than asking you that, I would much rather ask you if you could pinpoint some of the moments in your career that were pivotal to, making you become the figure that you are today.
Okay.
And these, I mean, you're completely free. I mean, I'm sure there's been ups. Mm-hmm. Ups are great, they make you feel like you're accomplishing, but I also believe that through struggle, that is where we temper our character, and that's where the best ideas usually come from. So maybe give us a little glimpse into what has happened in your 30 years career.
Sure. So going back to kindergarten,
like it.
Went to Disneyland for the first time. And was amazed by everything that I saw and felt. And from kindergarten on, I kind of felt that I wanted to be part of that. And the big dilemma as early as that was deciding whether I wanted to follow a career in music and the arts or in physics. I was equally interested in both. And then throughout the years, I discovered that the blending of art and technology was really my passion. And then I decided that I didn't like math, so I decided to follow the artistic path more than the than the physics path. But professionally, I would say I've been very blessed since an early age. I've never had a job outside of the entertainment industry. I grew up around the recording industry. And from as early as I was hired with the Detroit Pistons NBA team when I was 17, just before my 18th birthday, as the audio broadcast engineer. Okay. And got kind of thrown into the deep end. And that was right when the Pistons were in their glory days. They had 3 years of championship, which was a great time to get started. And but I don't have the sports gene, not one little bit. I was always interested in entertainment and, again, art and technology. So I decided to go to college, to Cal Arts, California Institute of the Arts, and majored in sound design for theater, music composition, and production stage management, kind of a little triple major sort of a thing. But with the Pistons, they had, at the time, they had just built the Palace of Auburn Hills, and way back in the day, it was the first venue in the United States to have a integrated, full-on broadcast facility. And everyone else that worked in the TV station there was sports heads, except for me. But we were offering image magnification packages to the tours, like the first ever. So I became that guy. I was the engineer in charge, and that's how I got into touring. Just by meeting all the acts and doing records for all the various acts that were coming in. And but my goal was always to work for theme parks. When I went out to Cal Arts, my goal was to do 4 years of college and then go to work with Imagineering. I got hired by Disney 2 months before my freshman year started at college, so that kind of put everything backwards.
Yeah.
So I was working for Disney full-time as I was going to college, and then I switched from Disney to Universal. And I was with Universal Studios in one form or another for 25 years, something like that, in Hollywood, Florida, Japan.
Yeah, I've read your resume, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you're quite fond of your experience in Japan, which you pretty much did it all by yourself.
Yeah, so that I actually thought was going to be the highlight of my entire professional career. I had the opportunity I was employee number 8. I started with Universal Japan when it was just a paragraph on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I was the audio designer for the entire theme park.
Wow.
Every show, ride, attraction, area development, worked on the content side as well as, all of the systems designed and integration, and then continued in some form or another with USJ for their first 20 years of operation. Doing all kinds of development work and such for them along the way. And again, I didn't think there was anything that was going to top that until Sphere came around.
Yeah.
And the Sphere story started about 6 years ago. I'm not quite sure exactly how they found me. I think they had a headhunter or something that found me somehow. They flew me out to New York several times. They had just started MSG Ventures. It was just a few months after the Dolan family sold off Cablevision.
Yeah. What I take out of all this is this mastery of convergence, getting to be an expert in one field is a thing, but, knowing enough of multiple interconnected fields and knowing especially from the content creation, what you need to make the entertainment experience credible.
That's the way I always approach a design. It's never system forward. It's always what is the intent, the creative intent, and the guest experience. The system design is actually the very last thing that I'll ever do, because the system, once you've defined what the intention is, what is the mood, what is the SPL, where are my point sources, how am I doing this from a creative standpoint? The system actually designs itself.
Yeah.
I've been violently opposed over the years of people that just throw kit at a project and then try to figure out how to make that work from a creative standpoint. That's how you fail. From my background, I kind of do, if it has something to do with audio, I've done it, from music composition to studios to symphonies to systems design and engineering. So it's just, you're always approaching it again from, okay, well, I know I'm going to have a timpani in this scene, so I need a sound system that's going to be able to reproduce a timpani with its entire bandwidth and SPL and impact, and then again, the system kind of falls out of that. With Sphere, Sphere started pretty interesting, right? 'Cause in the interview process, they said a couple of things. The very first thing they said was, we want to build a world-class music venue inside a Sphere. And I said, stop. Because that is a contradiction in terms. It's the worst acoustical environment known to mankind, and you want to put a world-class music venue inside of that. So instantly, before I knew anything else, I knew that like a traditional sound system isn't going to work in that. Point source speakers aren't going to work in that. Line arrays aren't going to work in that. So during the interview process, I pitched 2 different concepts. I pitched a near-field distributed sound system.
All right.
And I pitched a wave field synthesis solution. And at that time, I was pitching the wave field, well, both of those primarily out of utility. And the utility was you have to be very surgical where you put the sound. I want to put the sound exactly where the audience is, and I want to keep it away from every other surface. And then, we made the decision, before we get there, the second thing that they said during the interview process was, if it exists, we're not interested. And as soon as they said that, it's like, okay,
All right.
you got me. If you offer me this job, I will absolutely say yes, because that's exactly the way I think as well.
And that would actually be a way to top what you had done past year.
So, I mean, how many people tell you if it exists, we're not interested? Okay,
Exactly.
well, good. Let's go. But so again, the wave field synthesis concept started out of utility. But from the utility, the creative palette, I mean, I'd been studying wave field synthesis for years from my theme park work. So I knew the creative palette existed with that. But, so once we got past the dull, boring stuff, then we could actually get into exploit the capabilities of what is possible with a sound system like that, as far as like spatialization and controlling the focal points of the beams and multiple beams from a single array. But then again, also from the theme park world, it's all been about experience, right? So this product came out of Sphere, basically. It was how do we create that the tactile sensation. However, the original concept of this was infrasound, and because again we were looking at a way of controlling venue acoustics, and without noise treatment absorption inside Sphere. It has almost 28 seconds of reverb time at 63 hertz.
Wow.
So that's not very good. I will say that the end result of the acoustical treatments that we did in the venue were pretty spectacular. We got it down to exactly the targets that we were hoping to achieve. But the whole concept of the infrasound experience was to basically create a flat audio response, but still give you that gut pounding haystack, but without ruining the sound quality. Without having actually too much low end in the room. So we wanted to give the audience the illusion of the low frequency without it destroying the overall sound quality in the space. So we went through a bunch of different iterations on that. And, with the movers, we put the movers in just a little bit north of 10,000 seats. We used the inertial version.
So this guy?
Yes. We wanted the direct drive version, but we were too far along in the design process so designing a seat rail system and a suspension system that would accommodate the direct drive wasn't feasible. So it was much easier to do the shaky version and get that installed onto the seats. From a matrixing standpoint, what's possible inside Sphere as far as like the total channel count is crazy. It's too daunting for any creative person to even get their head wrapped around. So what we wanted to do is we tried to simplify the audio playback as far as channels are concerned, but still give them the maximum granularity of what's available.
Yeah, we're talking 167,000 channels
on the output side of HoloPlot. On the input side to that system, we're using about 256 channels.
Yeah, fair enough.
On the output side of the infrasound system, it's 2,500 channels. On the input side, we're using 64. But that 64 channel in is split into a bank of 16 and a bank of 48. And the difference between the first 16 versus the second 48 is the 16 channels are running through a dynamic delay matrix. So what we do, we know the XYZ coordinates of every seat in the venue. And we know the superposition of an audio object anywhere that we've located it inside the venue. And in real time, that superposition through metadata is going into a delay matrix. So every 4 seats is setting their delay time precisely to that audio object superposition. So the vibration is always in perfect sync with that object. And then we also have then 2 delay creative delays that are also addressable in our show control system. We have an overall delay offset. So like if we want the system to lead or lag, we can write that in on a cue by cue basis. So we can either be precise, lead, or lag. And then we also have a Haas effect
of course.
as a separate delay fader that just gives you a little bit finer granularity on that leading and lagging, so you can on again a instantly recallable cue by cue basis, you can set that delay offset.
What I would like to explore a little bit more while you're here. So I had the fortune of working in parallel when you were doing all this. I was doing a little humble demo video for Mover for the launch event that we had at ISC a few years back. And I was literally in this room. I was sitting there with my Logic Open ESX24 with that nice little bass tone going out. And well, I basically had to throw away out of the window everything I knew about mixing audio, because we're dealing with frequencies here that are way below the audible spectrum, and nothing made any sense. I was trying to design impact sounds, and they had absolutely no impact envelope.
Right.
They were just. I was sculpting the sound. That was probably the first time in my life that I ever experienced actual sound sculpting through, envelope generators and whatnot. But where I'm trying to head here is how much does psychoacoustics play into making you actually believe that the impacts that you're feeling are felt from your bones and from your guts and not from your eardrums.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a really interesting question, and I've got about 30 different answers for you on
Nice.
that. The first is, figuring out how you actually want to incorporate the tactile sensation with the audio program. What is its intent? Are you extending the audio spectrum, or are you trying to create the sense of reality of something? Like, do you want the audience to think that they're sitting on a motorcycle? Or do you want the audience just to get that extra energy of a kick drum? I mean, it's a completely different way of designing the system. So you really break down the scene on a beat by beat basis, and what is the creative intent? What am I trying to achieve? Am I blending it in? Is it standing out? What's super cool about this technology versus the other butt bouncers that are out there on the market? I mean, because coming from a theme park world, right? I've been doing this kind of stuff for like the last 25 years.
I think I've been on one of your rides then, probably.
Probably. I mean, so like incorporating tactile sensations, whether you're standing on a platform or holding a handrail or sitting on a seat, I mean, that's nothing new. What is new is the frequency range that this offers, especially the direct drive version. Because with the direct drive, I believe it's plus or minus 15 millimeters of heave.
About 1 inch.
Yeah. So that level of heave and being able to run at ridiculously low frequencies, like even so low, if we take the DC offset protection off of the amplifier, you could actually sustain the heave until the thing turns into a superheater.
Yeah, we tried that.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. But the point is that if you want the audience to feel like they're on a boat,
Yeah.
and you want to have a very slow bobbing
Well, yeah.
effect, you can run a 5 hertz signal through this thing, and you just get the feeling that you're slowly bobbing up and down. Or you can start playing with beat frequencies to get a lot more amplitude out of it without it heating up so much that still gives you that same effect, right? So being able to do those ultra low effects, that's completely out of the range of most other companies' offerings in that realm. But the other thing that we've exploited with this thing is the fact that it's good up to about 500 hertz. So with the right moment in the right show, we turn our seats into like a really creepy sounding speaker. I mean, it's far from a good sound.
Yeah, no.
But again, for a particular effect in a particular scene, it's a ridiculously creepy and great effect to exploit. Yeah. So again, it's all about creative palette and what's possible.
Yeah.
Because my goal when I sit down in a room with a creative designer or a director or a show producer, I never want to say no. I want, and then they flail around and say what they want, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, okay. And this tool set, along with the rest of the tool sets that we have at Sphere, we're pretty much good to go on that. There's not a lot that somebody can ask for that we can't do.
There you go.
So
I was actually, when I was going back to when I was doing the audio for this demo video, I was also surprised. I was working with a limited setup, so I had my headphones, and then I had this platform onto which I was sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not in this room anymore, but yeah, you probably saw it in the demo room. Mm-hmm. And I just had one foot on top, and I don't want to say amazed because I work for the company, but I was very surprised about the dynamic properties, so that it would you could have it as an extension, as you were saying. So it would actually make me feel the sound through bone conduction and all that. If I kept it at a lower level and would still get that precise, translation of what I was working in my DAW. And then if I cranked it up, I would actually start feeling the jump. So the video was a little ball bouncing around, and you had VRs. And it was actually the only true thing about that. It was the 180-degree field of view. You could turn your head around, and you would actually hear the sound a little bit more to the left or to the right and whatnot. What was interesting to me and that came into play was, even though the system only had one mover sitting, so it was effectively mono, when I turned my head, my brain was feeling more on the left side.
Right.
And that
it's because of weight distribution. When you turn your head, you're changing your weight distribution, which changes the way it conducts through your body.
The numbers of the Sphere are like something that they're flabbergasting, just to say the least.
Yes.
We're talking 167,000 channels of amplification for the X1 system.
That's right.
All done by a 16-channel amplifier that we developed over here.
Yes.
With the guys at Holoplot. We're talking 2,500 channels for the movers, 10,000 seats, and that tallies up to 718 quattro canali amplifiers.
Correct.
An undefined number of IPL modules driving 18s, subwoofers. What you got?
370 something.
At this point, Erik, I am afraid of asking you what's next, because topping this, and I'm sure it will happen, but damn.
Well, so it's really interesting. Ventures, the division for MSG that I work for, that's exactly what we are tasked to do. We venture. And our mission is to design, or to define and develop the what's next.
Wow. And on that note, thanks for being with us.
Sure.
This was marvelous treat, and I'll see you next time. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.